I'm also a member of the Antigonish Poverty Reduction Coalition. Quoting from an article on CBC Today, the only way to get out of poverty is through employment or education, and without affordable childcare, neither is possible. Do you have a plan to address issues around childcare in this community, and are you committed to universal childcare?
One of the major barriers for young families today is the cost of childcare. One of the problems with childcare of today is it's very, very expensive. The problem with it as well is the staff aren't paid what they should be paid either. So you have staff that aren't making enough of a wage at an average of $13 per hour. There was a interview on CBC Radio this morning that utilized some of these statistics. $13 per hour is the average wage, but at the same time it costs anywhere from $400 to $700 per month if you have 1 or 2 children. Now that's a very difficult thing to address. But what it is, it's a barrier because if you're not making a good wage, the problem is you cannot go out to work because you end up not having enough money to pay for childcare, or you're working to pay someone to look after your children. And you lose that time away from the children, and it's very, very difficult to make gains in the community or further your own education, things of that nature. Now, one of the things that the PC government would look for is try to look for some ways to have some flexibility within childcare as well. So it's great. A lot of the childcare spaces it's 9 to 5. It doesn't take into account the shift work and things of that nature. So we're looking at avenues to make things easier that way, give some more flexibility within the programs themselves, and hopefully make things a little easier so that we have the appropriate funding going forward that actually funds it properly. The PC government is committing to spend $20 million over the next 4 years to implement an early learning program that will set up our children for the future, both as they go through secondary school right on to university. So that is one of the major platform items, and I'm pretty proud of that. And I spoke to Jamie Bailey this afternoon, and he reiterated his support for that endeavor.
The question here is, are you committed to universal child care? I think many of you will agree that politicians like to dance around the specific question. Personally, I can say unequivocally, yes, I am committed to the principle of developing programs around universal child care. Unfortunately, the reality is, and we've talked about this with a number of programs, is that we need to have the resources to do that. And resources are scarce. The financial reality of this province, just like many of the individuals in the province, is not a healthy one. We may remember that in 2006, the country was on the verge of implementing a national child care program. And that was a Liberal government that was committed to that program. And it was replaced with a Conservative program to provide $100 in monthly credits, which was then taxed. And I think that brings even more of a burden. So this notion of making flexible programs based on that type of giving money to people that is then later taxed isn't the right type of solution. We need to work with our federal partners, but can I stand here and commit that we can develop and implement a child care program? No. But am I committed to the principles behind and looking for opportunities and avenues to somehow come up with creative solutions? Yes. One of those solutions is, as I've alluded to or actually mentioned early on, was my work with community schools. And one of the things that came out of my work in the community schools movement was the proposal for community hubs, a community hub model for schooling. That is to leverage space in schools for other types of programs and services. That's a way that we can use our existing infrastructure to reduce the costs of things like childcare in locations that are convenient to people in our communities to provide these types of services. But we have to work together as communities to make that happen.
I just want people to know that since we came to power in 2009, the NDP government has instituted 1,000 more childcare spaces in Nova Scotia. Right here in Antigonish, funding went to the tune of $12,000 to the Lower South River Preschool. We've established, and it's, I suppose, to carry on from what Randy said, we've established 4 early years centers in the province, one of which is in our own school board at Antigonish East. These early intervention centers are aimed at focusing on early intervention with children, parenting education, regulated childcare, and before and after school programs which will be provided in these centers. One of the most important things that the NDP has done is to have a real focus on the early years with early years funding, and by moving the responsibility for early years for children to the Department of Education from Community Services. And that was a move that was applauded by the chair of the Nova Scotia Child Care Association on CBC Radio today. And the quote is, "The province has improved areas such as subsidy and center funding, licensing regulations, program practices, and staff training for early learning centers." Is there more to be done? Yes, of course there is. We know that concerns with child care workers, that there are concerns with the child care workers and wages and their ability to and desire to stay in the profession. Recruitment and retention are difficulties. We're reviewing this situation with these child care workers, and we're going to continue to make improvements. But one of the things that the NDP has done that others have not supported is to raise the minimum wage for children, for the minimum wage, and so that we can actually have funding for people who are out working to have to pay for their child care. That and the increase in the child benefit. Thank you.